I finally caved in to those greedy bastards at the cemetery dance.
Oh, yes?
Blast this thing. I'm gonna blast. I can't wait till we can beat this with a hammer.
It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, cemetery dance. They've been sending me emails for a while now. To pre-order Richard Chismar's newest book, Memorials, which does sound pretty good. I ended up finally doing it because they tantalized me with this bundle.
Mm-hmm.
You get like a hardback of something. I think you get some cemetery dance issue. You get all kinds of shit with it. So I finally did it. Pre-ordered the book. It came to like $28 after tax, which I mean, I was probably gonna get the book eventually anyway.
Right.
Got a hardback. I would have rather just got a nice paperback. I'm gonna be kind of mad when they end up sending us the book for free. So maybe you'll get that copy if you don't do the pre-order. But I wanted the bundle just because I want it.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about doing that too real quick, like after the podcast. I meant to do it before coming over, but I was also trying to get some writing done. So
yeah. I mean, it's a good deal. Let me see what all was incorporated.
Well, it had like a variety of different things, and it was kind of like a grab bag, like because like you were able to do up to like 5 different books and have up to 5 different bundles. Now, granted, you might get the same things in some of them just because it's random, but
so each sampler pack includes a hardcover first edition. Some of these may be signed limited editions, some long out of print. Both would be cool.
Yeah,
probably just whatever's in Chismar's garage.
Yeah.
A trade paperback first edition. So you're already getting 2 books off the bat, which just makes it way more valuable.
This isn't counting the book that you actually paid for.
Yeah. Get a back issue of Cemetery Dance magazine. Total minimum value of at least $50. So it's hard to beat. Get a couple books there, And you could do it up to 5 times if you wanted, but I don't really need 5 copies of Memorials.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Get some Cemetery Dance, and I never actually read Cemetery Dance.
No, because we also have the newest issue pre-ordered for whenever it's supposed to come out.
Yeah, and that's got like Stephen King, Chuck Palahniuk,
Yeah.
a couple other famous people in it.
So that should be interesting too whenever it eventually comes out.
Yeah, I don't know why that hasn't dropped yet. Maybe it might be like an October release too or something. I don't know. But that's something to keep an eye on, and I am excited. Also, I think we might have announced this on here before, but since we're both like halfway through, we should probably bring it up again. Our book of the month is going to be David Scott Hayes, Not Suited for Work, NSFW. Over 200 pages in, so I'm almost done. It's like 300 something.
Well, no, it's like 414 or something, I think.
Is it? Well, I'm halfway then.
Yeah, I'm still around the 170 because the past couple of days I had off. I tried to get caught up on some comics. But I figure once I go back to work tomorrow, because I've been getting like 20 to 25 pages a day at just that work.
Yeah. So if I'm able to, I've been doing a lot of writing stuff, but if I'm able to like crank down and do some reading at night for like an hour, I should be done by the end of the week.
Yeah, it shouldn't take too long that's what I was thinking, like a week and maybe 2 at the absolute most.
Yeah, so we'll be done with that. And then we will go into the Murakami Minute, the Murakami manga stories, much to Nicholas Oberon's chagrin, who I just saw in his stories the other day, maybe yesterday, a picture of Ryu Murakami. Him saying, if you want to read a Murakami, read Ryu. He's the better Murakami.
Yes, I do remember
So he is fully off the
Yeah.
Haruki Murakami bandwagon, which is strange since he read so much of his work. It's interesting how as you grow as a person and you grow up as a...
Again, too, I think as like we went into it more in that episode, but the... reading something or somebody, like a whole bunch of somebody's work in a short period of time can sometimes
Taint it.
Yeah, it can turn it on.
That's why I always spread it out. I only read like a Murakami, like a Stephen King. I only read 1 or 2 a year.
Right.
That seems to be a little better for me. But I get the faults of Murakami now. It also is different when you're a writer, like when you're an aspiring writer who just starts out versus like where we are now, where we know what we're doing. It changes the way you read the work and the pacing and things like that. So, but we don't need to go into that because it's not a Murakami episode. This episode is.
It could be.
It might as well be. I think we're just going to talk about our failures today.
Well, I
thought
we wanted to do a short episode.
Highlights, low lights,
Low lights, brown lights,
dead lights. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me, as always, Spencer, the Seattle Shit Steamer Church. I went with your Seattle Steamer, but I added something.
Yes.
You're steaming shits.
Yes.
Dookies.
Browns.
Could you imagine the smell of steaming shit? Like with the one of those like industrial steamers? It would stink.
Maybe you just might burn it all away.
I don't know. Perhaps it would.
Burn the stench away.
So we want to get to some writing today after this, so we're going to keep this as a short episode as possible.
Goodbye.
So thank you for listening. Click. No. So I had a question. I've been meaning to ask you this, not necessarily on air, but I might as well because it'll just put all your embarrassments out there.
3 inches around.
I'm trying to think if that's big or not. I feel like that's a good girth.
Yeah.
3 inches.
Yeah.
Around.
Yeah,
It's like 3 fingers, right? Anyway, no. We're talking about Pringle cans. So
the mini Pringle cans.
The baby Gatorades.
Hey.
Gatorade bottle. That's about 3 inches.
Yeah.
That's still enough to rip something.
You're right.
You're not fitting that in a butt easy. You gotta work at it. I'm assuming you're just going butt the way you know, the kind of shit steaming.
Yes.
I get it out.
Yes.
You're like an excavator.
Drilling for oil.
Oh.
Black gold, that is.
Polly Cooley's gonna write a book about you. You're gonna be the extracting the black with your dingus. Oh, you're gross. So Spencer, and this is gonna probably be hard to answer. Maybe I'm gonna go with 3.
Okay.
What 3 things do you think are keeping you from either reaching your writing potential or just not being where you, and I'm assuming you're not where you want to be career-wise as a writer. So what 3 things do you think, whether it's something to work on or just something that you find fault with that you know you can change like now?
Discipline?
It's a good one.
I feel is the
probably the main one.
The main one, yeah, because even like these past few days, weeks or so, whenever I've been able to kind of get something a little bit going after work, I'm still able to get at least maybe like a couple hundred words, which isn't, at least my goal of 5, but after work and everything.
Yeah.
But doing that, I feel like, oh, well, because, there was just like months and months and weeks of not really even attempting really to try I'm getting the laptop off. I'm uncharging the laptop and I'm bringing it down and yeah, I have it sitting there. I'm going to get ready to do something on it, but just never
get around to
never
it.
even open it and stuff like that. So I feel like if I can just get myself to open it, or I told you on Friday.
It's like the gym. If you just get to do it, once you get there, you usually are like, all right, I'm here.
Or I told you the other day at work, I actually tried squeezing in a little bit of writing on my phone, in between breaks and stuff on lunch and stuff like that.
That's what I found has helped me a lot getting stories done, is being able to just write in between, when I'm on breaks and stuff. Just on my phone, I'm able to knock out a couple paragraphs here and there, and it adds up.
And I mean, I was only able to get around 100 words, but that was the first time trying to. So I hope if I can maybe try to work that in a little bit more, get more used to doing that, and just trying to do that kind of stuff on my phone, that maybe then that
could also translate to
off the work.
Yeah, instead of doing the fucking doom scrolling and watching reels on Instagram and doing that dumb shit, you could just I'm bored. You know what? I'm bored.
Yeah.
What should I do when I'm bored?
Right.
I don't want to get the laptop out, but I can, let me knock out a couple sentences. Let me write down a few ideas. And like I said, it adds up.
And then I feel like that way too, if I can get to that a decent way, make that more of a steady habit, then that after the work writing might not feel as daunting, because it's I may be able to cobble together a couple hundred words already before I even done anything after work. And so even that way, even if I still maybe only be able to get another couple hundred, but putting that together as a day, can get me through that 500, because I would really like to get to the 500, at least 500, but closer to 1,000 words.
I was
a
gonna
day.
ask,
You know what I mean?
do you think if you solidify your discipline, you'd be able to get 1,000 to 2,000 words a day?
Well,
Like build yourself up to that point.
that which I think then would go into my second point of just my typing skills in general. I mean, I do feel like I have improved since the beginning of this, but still just like, you can see me, I'm still like not henpecking, but it's pretty close.
Slow going.
Yeah, slow going and stuff like that. So I feel like if like that, I can, because I know, remember before you talk about just going on like those like website, almost kind of like the games you could play back in like
typing games
in high school, to just maybe hone it and just as like warm up maybe too. But
well, yeah, I do that sometimes. I just warm up with that, especially because it helps me get in the mood sometimes, just the act of typing. But like you've seen, when we did that one story when we were working on it, you were telling it to me and I was writing.
Right.
And just the speed, we were able to knock it out just because I could type very fast.
Right, yeah.
Like I don't have to stop, pause, look, or anything. I just can flow.
Right.
So each idea comes and you're not like missing ideas or losing your train of thought because you're not focused on the actual act of writing. You're focusing on your thoughts, which is nice. But it does take a while. I mean, I took typing in school back when that was I don't even know if kids do that anymore. But
well, I had like the computer typing, but they were all very like, it was just like the mandatory ones. I didn't do any like exceeding or anything like that.
But in school, from like middle school to high school, I think every year we had like typing classes, and just because this is gonna be the future. I'm that old, so I was able to actually get really good at it before I ever was able to afford a computer, or anything, which was nice. So I always had that, and I always wrote on a typewriter, growing up. So that helped a lot with that stuff. It is a whole game changer though when you don't actually have to think about the keys at all. Like you're literally just whatever you're. It's almost like speaking into it.
That was one thing I was kind of surprised whenever I went to doing those couple paragraphs on the phone during my breaks and stuff. Was like I found it was almost easier to type it almost.
I mean, that's when you mostly do your typing anyway.
Yeah,
in real life.
And like, and I don't know if maybe because like the pad, it's like the quote unquote keypad is smaller, and you're just doing it with like a thumb or both your thumbs anyway. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I have the swipe keyboard, so I fly through. You've seen me like my thumb, because it just like creates the words when you swipe. So it goes words at a time, not letters. So I just fly through when I write on my phone.
Because like I was actually thinking of trying to mess around, like either doing that or doing it like, turn the phone sideways on the Google Doc, and like, they kind of give you like the two separate like keyboards.
Yeah.
I didn't really mess around with that because just doing it normal, I felt like, oh well, like this is a little bit like easier than what I thought it was gonna be.
Right.
Because normally anytime whenever I did anything on my phone, it was just like the voice, just doing it with my voice on it, and then going back and cleaning it up afterwards.
Yeah, the typing definitely. Like I found the phone really works for me just because it's right there all the time anyway, and I can go pretty quickly. And the other thing, there's no software edits on there, so there's no Grammarly or built-in Google Docs edits or anything. So when I'm writing,
it just might have like a very simple like spell check and things like that.
But even then, I think on mine I have to actually hit spell check. And maybe if it's like really fucked up, it does. I don't really remember, but my spelling's pretty good, so I generally don't fuck things up too bad. But when I'm writing that way on my phone, I don't have the distraction of the squiggly lines, or what really gets me is like the yellow lines, which is like, well, those are like the premium edits, but those are always like the paragraph style edits, which I usually don't get too many of, but sometimes I word things differently, or a lot of times I word things specifically, like on purpose. I have this is supposed to sound like this, and like Grammarly hates that.
Oh yeah,
because they want it to be uniform and it wants it to be concise and all this shit. But sometimes I don't want it concise, Sometimes you want it muddled. But on my phone, I don't have to think about any of that. It's literally just a first draft. So the phone's actually pretty good for the first draft. But like my problems, I feel like succumbing to the resistance is the big one. Like I'll go, the procrastination. I get home from work. Usually I have some free time, and I'll do it in like 45 minutes. I'll do it in an hour, and I just keep pushing it till it's like 8 o'clock, and then I'm tired.
Yeah,
and then it's just like, well, I still got my reading to do. I'll just read.
Yeah, like if I can't get started before like 7 or 8 o'clock, it's a no-go.
Well, the thing that sucks, and we've talked about this in the past, my ideal creative window, like when I'm most creative and my brain actually wants to write,
Morning.
is in the morning, exactly at the hours that I'm at work.
Yeah.
So like 7:30, usually like 8 actually. So like let's say 8 to 10:30ish. That's when I could just knock out a half a book if I wanted. But I'm always at fucking work, and then on the weekends I'm just I sleep in on the weekends sometimes, and I just go to the gym, and then by the time I get back, I've been doing better when I'm free at home to get some at least rewrites done. So edits fine. Like editing, if I can sit down, all I have to do is open the computer, and once I sit down to the edits, I can get into the first paragraph I'm working on. I'm good. I can edit all day, and that's usually where the real writing for me starts anyway. Like I do so many rewrites, that's when the story really unfolds for me in the way that I want to tell it. But the initial draft, that's what I've been slacking on. It's like it takes me like sometimes 3 weeks to knock out an initial draft, and it really shouldn't. It should take me maximum of 1 week.
Yeah.
Because I have all the skills and the speed that I can do that. It's just, and usually I have the story now, like a loose outline. I know where it's going. The procrastination is what fucking kills me the most.
And then like my third, I'm kind of thinking of two things. I'll go with one, and then maybe if we have time after, we'll circle back to my maybe honorable mention.
Dishonorable mention.
Dishonorable mention is like, I guess you could probably use it as like my grammar, I guess. Because like I still have trouble like figuring out like, does this need a comma, a semicolon? Like, should I break this paragraph up here? Or do I need this paragraph to be this long and start this new page? Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. I still have like a lot of times because it was literally like I'll spend like almost 5 minutes just like looking at my screen trying to think of that thing or like a word or like the paragraph break or whatever it is, and then
so it's the mechanics slowing you down now.
Yeah, and then it's like so. Once I get that, and then it's like I'll go and I can write almost like another like most of a paragraph until I get like to the next like speed bump until I'm just like, what's the word I want to use for that, or even just like like I said, like what maybe the best way to say that, because like I'm trying to also keep like maybe if it like the most simplest of just like all right, just getting it down. You know what I mean? Because like I always say, like that's most of the fight is just getting it down and then punching it back up later. But I have been trying to also do that, but also punch it up as I go too, because just to try to make less work
later.
But it's like also I'm burning time now. You know what I mean? To like, I could have maybe got another couple paragraphs if I didn't spend like 5 minutes trying to figure out the right way to word this or how to like, set this thing up or something, Well,
I'm always learning new things that I should already know. Like I just learned yesterday the proper way to use an ellipses.
Oh, yeah? Well, I do tell because I probably have no idea.
Well, let's say you just want to have something. I mean, a pause, a lot of times they just say use a comma. But let's say somebody trailed off their thought or something.
Yeah.
Or you need whatever, the actual proper use of an ellipses. But I'm talking about the actual utilization of it in a sentence. So you think, I don't know, Brian shit his pants and whatever, ... But it's actually space ... It's not just a dot like a period, period. Connected to the word period. It's a space and then period. I didn't know that. And then the actual Google Docs auto corrects it to three spaces.
Yeah.
So like the periods are spaced out in threes, whereas when you type it, it's just period. So I've been using it wrong this whole time. All my old stories that I've used it, I never had the space between the word and the ellipses.
I might have, but I don't think I've ever had spaces in between.
And if you are connecting it to like another thought or a sentence or something, so it'd be like the last word, space ... space again. Yeah. So it's almost like its own little word.
Now, the beginning of the next word needs to be recapitalized, right?
I think it depends if it's like a new sentence or if it's just a continuation of like a thought or something. Or it depends how you use it. Are you using it as a pause? Are you using it as he's telling a story and then he slips off and just starts telling another story? I also found like M dashes actually a lot of the times are what I should have been using on those, just to like
the line.
Just to cut it. So a lot of times, I use it as a which I do too much is like I use the ellipses as somebody trailed off. That's fine. But then sometimes I realize that, oh no, I shouldn't be trailing off. I should just be cutting it. He just stopped talking.
Mm.
I was using it as they were also just stopped talking. But that's more of like, I just started doing this and just faded into nothing and dot. But what I really should do is just, I'll stop talking. Cut. That's an M dash. Or a period if you want. But like just to show that like he stopped mid-sentence. And I could still look up more stuff on that properly. I have the fucking I don't know why I want to say Spunk because it's not Spunk. It's not William Spunk.
Oh yeah.
Where is it? What is that? Hey, there's that comic thing we were just talking about.
There we go. It's over there.
That was for last episode. What is this? What is all this?
Notebooks. It looks like.
Where is my book?
I
don't know where it is, but it's the guide of style.
Oh, okay.
Style guideline, and I need to probably reread that because it just has so many of those little things that you don't think about. And
well, that's what like this story that been working on now. Like I've been trying to try different things, or like like we talked about before, like having dialogue within the paragraph but not ending the like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And like stuff like that. I've been trying to do like work with like trying that kind of stuff and seeing like how that works.
So having more like action and stuff take place with the dialogue.
Yeah. And then like, and I'll still even like the action going with the dialogue to begin with, and then I'll have just a couple line dialogue tags and then try to go back, like, you know what I mean, if nothing's really happening as they're speaking at, at that moment. But just different kind of things, especially after because I really started that while I was reading American Gods.
Yeah.
And I feel like Neil Gaiman does a really good job of that kind of thing. So I feel like, I don't know if it's subconsciously, just filtering in there, but it has been something that I've been trying to work on a little bit more.
So like if Greg balled his fist, go fuck your face. He stomped around the room and he fucking threw the hat that his daughter gave him. You're an asshole, but that's all just one paragraph instead of breaking it up into sentences.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time
instead
now.
of having like small paragraphs with the dialogue in, but separating it, trying to put together a little bit.
Another thing that I've been focusing on more is the separation for paragraphs, like the separation of ideas and actions.
That's a song.
So instead of continuing one as one big paragraph or having too many small splits, like trying to get the proper, when should I start the new paragraph?
Because it sucks because like in like essay writing and just writing in general, it's so easy. New topic, new paragraph.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. But with like fiction, it's like that doesn't apply. And it's I
think the old adage is when you change something, that's when the new paragraph starts. So for instance, to be very basic, you're talking about the color of a woman's dress.
Yeah.
And it's flowing and it's billowing. But as soon as you move on to her hat, or maybe just away from her in general, like move on to the curtains that she's standing in front of, that's a new paragraph.
Yeah.
Because it's a new thought. It's a new, even if it's you doing that with action, it could be a new action. He's running the bases, and then when he goes to kick somebody in the face, that's maybe the new action, so that'd be a new paragraph. So you could do different things like that. But then I've also read writers who they don't focus on that at all. You have a David Foster Wallace. Everything's just one paragraph.
And again, say that's another also that kind of goes into like that with like that stuff is like a thing that I've really been thinking about too with this style, or with this story that I'm working on is like the style. Where before, like I'm writing it. I know I'm trying to do certain things, but like as I'm actually writing it, the style is not a thing. But with this one, like as I'm writing it, I'm trying to think of like how I'm pacing it, like the words and and
also with the genre, like the atmosphere and stuff, like everything has to have a certain feel to it. So that's all things you have to focus on. Whereas if I'm just writing a story, that's another thing. When you're just writing generic, like I'm just going to write a story and then submit it, find somewhere to submit it, you don't necessarily have those in mind all the time. Unless you go into, I'm going to write a gothic horror story, so I need to have like this romance to it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just the language or the paragraph structure. Or as your case, you're writing a cosmic horror story. There's a lot that goes into the, the unknown and the atmosphere. And like, there's just, like you said, the pacing's important.
How much do you show, like, because like with a lot of writing, it's showing, not telling. But then again, with like being cosmic horror, it's like, well, it's not even showing because like a lot of times it's
Can't
like
see it.
you can't see it, or it's just something so bizarre, you know.
If anything, it's either the author telling you like what the thing is, but in a way that you don't really understand, or it's another character describing what they saw or what they experienced, and then it still never actually shows it.
You know what you just saying that, and I just with noticing it just made something click from just like the old cosmic horror, like the H.P. Lovecraft that I've read, and like just the stuff from the other cosmic horror from the last issue of Cosmic Horror Monthly that we were reading. A lot of first person.
Yeah, that's I think we actually talked about that in the past when we were talking about H.P. Lovecraft.
Well, that was but just because of like he did a lot of the
epistolary,
where it's notes and letters and stuff like that, which kind of makes
it
sense
lends itself to the
that,
cosmic horror,
and that was kind of like the style back then.
I always not always, but I try to stay away from first person because I feel it's too easy. Because it's almost like acting. You just think, okay, I'm in this situation. I'm this person. And then you tell the story. Not that it's bad to use that at all. I mean, I'd probably write more stories like that. But like short stories go, I feel like maybe it's just my skill set. I don't focus enough on the inner turmoil of the person that you would have in first person.
That's like because like those stack of books that I wanted you to pick from to eventually read, that Keeper from Greg Rucka. It's first person, and it's like an action thriller pattern. Like you would normally think like, oh, well, first person that like it's like, how much can you go, because then you also know the main character's probably not gonna, you don't have to worry about him not surviving because who's telling the fucking story if he but he does such a good job with it that it's like you almost don't even really notice or care that it's in first person. You're like, this should be kind of bugging me, but it's not because it's so well written.
Well, you've written a few first-person stories, haven't you? I'm pretty sure you've written a good bit in the past, like the flash fiction and stuff.
Yeah, definitely in the past. Yeah, recently I think I've tried to stay more third person or unknown narrator kind of thing, because I also feel like that kind of helps me with my troubles of getting my tenses mixed up.
Yeah,
because if it's like if it's first person, how and the tone, you know what I mean. If you're switching the tenses of like depending on if the guy's actually talking or if not, you know what I mean.
He's thinking on something,
or because even like a lot of times you'll have a first person, but there might also be like another also like narration or like kind of like embodied voice, kind of telling, giving the story along.
I find third person makes it easier to write other characters. Because you don't have to write them specifically how they relate to the first person.
And then it makes it easier for you doing the jumping around too.
Yeah, because if you have a first person story and then you incorporate a bunch of other characters as you normally do, you would think, oh, I'm just going to write this character's like this and this character's like that. But if you're an astute reader, you'd be like, well, no, this would be how the
protagonist is
viewing these characters. It's not how they actually are.
This is how he perceives them.
Yeah, but if you have a third person, they're however if you're an unknown narrator or just whatever, it's just that's who they are. And then you can, discuss how they relate to each other and how they view each other, which is fun. But you can't necessarily do that in first person as easy because like, we said, it's always
unless if you do the thing where they switch first
person.
Well,
yeah, they do that too, which can be confusing if you're not good. But
well, then like that's what I'm interested in because like that Keeper book, it's the first in a series of books, and I'm on I've read the first 3, and then so the fourth one is from because like all of them so far has been from the viewpoint of the main character Atticus Kodiak. That's a fucking name right there.
Atticus Kodiak.
Yeah, but so in the fourth book, it's all from the fourth because like he's had like this on and off again girlfriend, and she's not really in the third book that much. So the fourth book is her and like her dealing with her own thing and stuff. And I think towards the end it kind of dovetails back in to kind of like where like I probably to where the kind of where the third one probably ended. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you'll get. I'm interested to read that one to see. Like, oh, like I've seen this character. Now, what's it like to actually be from inside of her head. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Just utilizing any of those narrative devices and ways to tell a story. I always implore any writer to like try your hand at all of them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be in Lovecraft where like almost all your stories are first person. Like you want
Right.
to try different things. I mean, maybe you're really good at one versus the other, but to be a proficient writer, you should really try not just different styles, but genres. And
I want to do something with like with an unreliable narrator and like that kind of stuff, because I feel like that can be like fun.
yeah,
And you can really do things with the story because it's like, is this actually happening? How much of this is, real? What kind of, like, almost like that Department of Truth, like that could be really cool with an untrustworthy narrator.
yeah.
Because it's like, oh, what the fuck's happening? What's real? What's not real?
That's still one of my bigger problems with writing is that I am not great at being able to solidify who's telling the story or how the story is being conveyed. Like I always just go into it and that's always like it's never in the back of my mind. Like unless it's like an epistolary story or like when I've written some cosmic horror stuff in the past, I had it set up so it's like, well, it's supposed to be an homage to H.P. Lovecraft, so somebody's telling the story.
Right.
But in like a lot of my like, okay, let's use my Asher Kang story for example. Sword and Sorcery, that's just a story I told.
Yeah.
And if you read it, okay, it's fine. It's just a story. But if you try to think, well, who's telling the story? How like nobody's telling the story. You're just reading it. I could probably do a better job at that.
No, I don't know how much of a focal point that is necessary, unless if who's telling the story is a factor of the story. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like a lot of like that isn't like
Well, we had this conversation before. I don't think most readers care anymore.
no. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't see it either way, I guess.
I don't know if readers ever cared, and it was just like the old time style was just like people thought that somebody needed to be telling the story, and that's just how they wrote stories. But I don't think it's necessary. I mean, most of the fiction I read that I really like isn't told from someone.
Because I mean, like it's like The Shining. It's like we're not. Well, I mean, that might not be a good one to an example, but it's just like who's telling the story, and that like does not know. Like it's not like Danny reincarnating his fucking terrible winter with his psycho dad, stuck in the hotel. Like,
not Forrest Gump telling you about his life.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, we got off track, but what was your honorable mention? Did you tell the third thing?
Yeah, the third thing was like the technical grammar stuff. And then what was the fourth? I think it was kind of along those lines of the trying the different things. I can't remember what it was. But did you do your four? What was your three?
Procrastination and avoiding resistance.
Because I know you kind of was just throwing them in there as I was talking. I didn't know if you had a chance to actually these other three.
So let's make it solid here.
Yeah.
So, procrastination and succumbing to resistance, not avoiding. If I avoided resistance, I'd be writing.
Right.
My second one is making excuses for myself for why I'm not writing. Be like, oh, I'm tired. That's a big one. It's like, oh, I was tired.
You're always tired.
I was busy and I just didn't get to like I always just end up hating myself for doing that anyway. I don't do that with the gym. Like I don't skip the gym and go, oh, I was fucking tired. Like if I skip the gym, I'm like I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, I hold myself accountable for that. I need to do that with my writing too. But like, no, I shouldn't have quit. The third thing, maybe taking too many projects on at once, or just more specifically, not finishing projects.
Like scheduling, maybe.
Yeah, like, well, I have a problem.
Game planning. I'm not exactly sure how you would.
I have an issue with like I'll start a story and I'll be really passionate about it, and oftentimes I'll eventually finish the story, but I end up like I'm not feeling it, and then I'll move on to something else, and then I'll knock that one out. Or what happened recently is like I end up 3 stories deep, and then finally I'll do knock one out, and then I go back. So I'm always playing like catch up. Like I'm always going back and doing old stories, and generally I finish them. A lot of them have been getting published and stuff, so it's not bad there. But my most productive stories that I'm most proud of that I've gotten published, especially the longer ones, are all stories that I wrote beginning to, like, that's the only thing I worked on. I specifically went, I'm going to write the story and I'm going to finish the story. And then I was very happy with that. But the ones I've gone back to, like, I struggle to, I guess, complete those. And when I finally do, it's like I'm not as proud of them. almost because it's like I didn't like them as much.
Mm.
Like we talked about, like the one anthology I got invited to. I pretty much finished that story and decided I'm just not going to submit it because I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I think I would have, if I just stuck with that beginning to end and really like sat down and thought out how I wanted the ending and stuff to go and focused on it, I probably would have liked it more instead of deciding to just go with.
Oh, that reminds me. Like the fourth kind of thing was like sometimes like I find myself like when I'm working on a story, like I'll be like at work, I'll be kind of like thinking about it, but a lot of times I don't get a lot of the thought until like I'm actually in front of the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
So like I feel like I waste a lot of time because I'm at the keyboard. It's like I'll have plot out like kind of like what I want to happen, but the of like that I want the sentence to sound like this and flow and that, like, you know what I mean? A lot of that thought isn't going on until I'm actually sitting in front of the keyboard.
You need to just start writing it down or something.
Or maybe just in my head, like, this is the line I want to use, or this is how I kind of want to, you know, so that maybe whenever I go to start, like, I kind of already have that, you know.
You should just have a note thing on your phone. That's what I use. I just write that stuff down so I don't forget it. Because when I don't, I end up forgetting it, or when I go back to it, it's not the same as what I initially thought of.
Because like I said, I'll think of like how I want the story to go, like plot wise, but the actual of just like how am I gonna actually, what's the word that I'm actually gonna use to get there? Is an issue for me sometimes. Because like I said, I'll just be sitting there blankly at the keyboard or at the screen until whatever I solve the problem to whatever the question was, and then you know the dam breaks for a little bit of progress.
You know what, another big issue that I don't focus on, and I should? I think
prostate stuff.
Prostate or prostitute?
Both.
Both things. They could be two things. Things can have double meanings, double usage. No, one thing that is probably a bigger problem than I realized until just now is that when I get into a very big project or something that's important, or I feel is important, for whatever reason, that's the one that I will procrastinate from and push off. Usually I start strong, but then, like my novel, for instance, like I got away so far away from it, and I was like halfway through. And then I just got so far away from it because, I need some other projects and stuff. I should have just did it straight, through.
I do feel like sometimes when I get close to finishing a story, the closer I get, sometimes almost like the harder it gets to finish it sometimes.
It's like climbing a mountain.
It's like you're almost there, just finish it, when it's just like, but there's this little hill of a new story that I could easily get over, but instead of...
Yeah, it's just tough for some reason to do that. Or another one for me is like deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
Like I go, I got to make sure I hit that deadline. And then when I cement that deadline in my head, it actually has the opposite effect I noticed.
It's like, I can wait until almost the deadline and just get it done real quick.
For some reason, I trick myself into thinking I can do it the week of.
Yeah.
And I never do. What I should be doing is like, I have a deadline. 1st of next month is when I need to get this story done. So I should try to get it done the first week of this month.
Which is like important thing because like at the callback to last week's episode with like the comic book writing and even like just art or just anything within that medium. Like, because I've heard this a lot of times, especially like with like if there's a writer or an artist that you might necessarily like, be like, yeah, they might not be the greatest, but you know what they do? They hit their deadlines.
Yeah.
So like that's why they get the work.
Which
is important, like because especially if you're trying to make like a live off with like, just like writing for like a magazine or articles or stuff like that, you're gonna have to have deadlines and stuff you're gonna have to meet.
Exactly. You can be a mediocre writer, but you'll have more success than a great writer if you're putting out work and the great writer's not.
Yep.
If it takes 10 years for a great writer to put out a book, but you're able to put out a book every year, you're going to have a bigger following most likely, even if that writer is better than you.
Yep.
Consistency, as the DPW podcast has shown, usually yields some results.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that was a longer topic than I expected.
Right.
So, folks, if you want to check out us on the interwebs, we are at DPW Podcast on X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can follow me or check out my work, calebjamesk.com. My social media stuff's on there. So is my publication history and all that fun stuff. And also, Spencer, if you want to check out his OnlyFans this week, he is the Seattle Steamer Church.
Hey, you got it in one this time.
Yeah. Yes, I did. So we thank you for listening. Swing,
Bada,
bada.
swing.
Know where that came from. So thank you for listening, and we will check you out next week.